So I get a ton of questions about grade placement, and I've written a lot of things on grade placement, but sometimes it helps to sort of be sitting in my kitchen like we're having a cup of tea and talk about grade placement. I don't want you to stress out about grade placement. It is something that causes a lot of moms stress and frustration, and really what I want you to think about are a few things. One, most parents that come to homeschooling, a lot of them think they're going to homeschool for forever. And so that's great. That would make it the easiest when it comes to placement. But even if you're not, I wouldn't stress about it. So we have children all over the map as far as the calendar, I should say, not the map, as far as birthdays go. I've got April birthdays, I've got March birthdays, I've got 2 in January, I've got 1 in June. So they're kind of all over the place. And so that can make placement kind of tricky. General rule of thumb, if you are running a September to May school year, is that your child should always be the age for their grade longer than they're not in that school year. So you want them to be that at least half the year. That's not always going to be possible, and I'll talk about some gray areas there. But so if you've got a child that has maybe a September, October, November, December, January birthday, February birthday, you are golden to start in September with that next school year. So if you've got a child that's 6 and they're going to be 7, say in January, you should start first grade that September. If you've got a child that is not going to be 7, say until March, then you want to think about it a little bit more. Generally, they're going to be okay in March. The end of March depends on the child, but generally March is still okay. When we're looking at April, that's when I really start to say, Mom, you really probably ought to think about waiting until the next school year. And that's like really shocking to some moms. Oh, I don't want them to be off. I don't want them to not be the same as their peers. And really, what I want you to think about when it comes to Waldorf is comparing Waldorf to the school down the street is sort of like comparing apples and pineapples. They have the word apple in them, but they're a vastly different fruit. And so you're really going to have much different experience when it comes to Waldorf. Now, what happens if your child has to transfer to that school down the street, say next year or in 5 years? I generally wouldn't worry about it. You know, we had a son that transferred to the high school in 10th grade. He did beautifully. He had a little bit of adjustment when it came to math, but then he was on the honor roll like the very next semester. And he's been a straight A student. And he was my hardest kid. So I was really worried. I was really worried that when he transferred over, I thought this could be awesome for him or it could be a disaster for me. And it was awesome. It was awesome for him and it was awesome for both of us. And so I wouldn't really worry about kids needing to transfer into another school setting. Generally, if you know that's coming, say you know you're going to have to put them in school in the fall, I work really hard with parents to make sure that their kids are ready. And it's really generally not a huge deal. It's something that takes, a few weeks to sort of get them acclimated. The vernacular is different. They use different words there than we do at home in Waldorf. So you sort of adjusting them to that. But really, in general, you're not going to have to stress a whole lot if you have to decide to put your children in school. Now, if you're home and you're homeschooling for forever, that's great. That's what we love to do. We've had all of our kids with us at home, and it's something that we've really enjoyed. And I hope that if that's your path, that you're really enjoying it too. That doesn't mean that it's not full of work and it's not full of frustration some days. But in general, we have a good time with them at home. So my kids have often said, what grade am I in again? Because they don't even think about it. They know that we've changed material the next year and we're moving up a little bit for the next year, but we're not very centered on what grade they are. We work more on looking at where they are with their age, which is exactly what they do at Waldorf. So if you've got a child, like I said, that's maybe April, May, then you're gonna really wanna think about not moving them up until the next year. One exception, I have a lot of moms that say, I'm really not comfortable with waiting until the whole next school year. So I'll say, well, why don't you think about doing a half year then? When you're homeschooling, you can really do anything that you want. You can start that child maybe in January, and then that would give them that full benefit of having that school year be more than half of their age. And I think that that's a very good compromise. With my son that has a March birthday, his birthday was March 4th, and there was always throughout his homeschooling, there were always 1 or 2 main lesson blocks that I saved until the next school year just because that's where he was. He was a very squirrely, busy boy, and he never quite fit in to that where he would be with those grades. So look at your kids. I think that there's a lot of observing that can be done. And if you're still having questions and you're not quite sure where to place your children, drop me a note. I'm happy to help you. One thing that I get a lot of questions on that I really wouldn't worry about is I get a lot of moms that say, well, I have a child that's 4 and they're 4 in March. I want to plan for first grade. And honestly, one thing that I say is you can't know now where that child's going to be in first grade. So I would just let them unfold and look at it when they're almost 5. And then we're going to look at it again when they're almost 6. And then we'll decide where they're going to be first grade wise. So don't stress about it. Let it be this beautiful unfolding and don't rush them. Allow them to sort of have the space that they have for childhood, because it ends so fast. And before you know it, they'll be adults and they'll be running off and you'll be wondering where the heck all the time went. So just relax and let me know if you need any help with placement. Thank you.